So, my name's Rebecca, and I'm a newly diagnosed autistic adult. And today, I want to talk to you about basically tough love and autistics, and whether or not it works for autistic people. Because it's a big subject in my mind, because um, I was it was not known that I was autistic, and I was kind of given a lot of tough love as a young person, definitely. And I just wanted to talk about how that affected me, and maybe see if that rings true with you or not. Basically, I was seen as being quite frustrating, I think, for my family, particularly, I think, because I wasn't doing very well. I was bouncing through jobs. I was struggling to hold down a job. I was, really struggling just to kind of have this life that was successful. In their eyes, they seemed to think that I was not going to be able to look after myself. And I think they were really concerned about me. So, one of the things I will tell you is that some tough love did help. It did make a difference. It did help me to, create a life which I am quite proud of. However, I think that in many cases, you have to be really, really careful about how you approach tough love with autistic people. The reason being is that I grew up into somebody who was extremely I don't know if the word is self-deprecating. I was really upset with myself, really angry with myself. I couldn't get myself to do things unless my head was going, right, you have to do this now, you have to do it. And my head would get really super angry with me. And that is probably a result of the way that I have been taught. I've been taught that the only way to motivate myself is to be really tough with myself, to go, Beck, just get up, just get out of bed, stop messing around, just go and do this, just go and have a shower, stop messing around, stop being so silly. And that's my internal talk as an autistic adult, newly diagnosed. And I think not being diagnosed at a young age, people don't understand you. They don't get why you can't do things. They don't understand executive functioning. And they're not psychologists. I mean, my parents were not psychologists. My siblings were not psychologists. They just wanted me to have a good life, and they were trying to motivate me to do things all the time in any way they could. And usually that came down to telling me, come on, you're not going to get anywhere if you don't, sort yourself out. So this resulted in severely bad self-talk for me. And what happened was, when I looked up motivation in autistic people, I found that it wasn't motivation that was my problem. It wasn't that I needed a kick up the bum, so to speak. It was that I actually needed somebody to say, right, I see, you do things differently. Right, okay, and somebody to understand. And now I understand myself. I'm trying to do it with myself, and it's working. It's working. So, here's what you need to do to motivate yourself if you're autistic. Do not give yourself a huge, massive list. I've written a trilogy. I kind of worked this out myself when I was writing, because I was trying to write it all in one go. I get hyper focused, and I'd have like a day's worth of writing. I could spend like eight hours sometimes, and my hands would be shaking from being on the computer. And I'd gone into hyper focus. I hadn't eaten all day, and that was how I was trying to write my book at the beginning. And then I heard that Roald Dahl, one of my favourites when I was growing up, Roald Dahl was showing how he writes, and he writes a little bit at a time. So he would write until he still had more in him. He was still thinking of more things to write, and then he'd stop And I was like, that sounds crazy, because why would you stop? You keep going, don't you, when you're in flow? But no, he'd stop and then he'd do it the next day. And by actually using that way of doing it, I managed to write books. I managed to get through an entire year writing most days and getting my book written. Another thing I would do is I would take 2 days off. I did this with walking as well. I would say, look, you want to walk regularly, don't make yourself walk every day. Give yourself 2 days, and don't say when those days are going to be. Just give yourself 2 days when you go, don't really feel like it today, and you can take that day off. And I kept walking for a good number of, well, about 1 to 2 years, and then I kind of got my injury. But I kept walking 5 days a week with that kind of motivation, because it was giving me a way out. It was saying to my brain, hey, you don't have to do this. If you're feeling really low, you can have a day off. So this is how I've learned to motivate myself. I've learned to motivate myself by taking things a very, very small chunk at a time. I always wanted to be the one who was like going fast, but I have found that going slower, taking things easier, taking things one step at a time is the way I've motivated myself. So my answer to the question at the beginning, tough love does work. It does work, and it can help. There are things I've done with tough love that I wouldn't have done, but it does have its consequences. So trying to understand how a person works and what is their way of viewing it and how they can do it better is possibly a better way of approaching things. I would say it is definitely the better way of approaching things, because I have become more self-compassionate, yet I motivate myself to do all the things that I couldn't motivate myself to do before. And I also hit burnout with tough love. So, yeah, some things to ponder. Anyway, if you're an autistic adult and you're newly diagnosed and you haven't known about this ever since you were little.